Hey guys, the next season of Westworld is on its way, so in this month's Top 5, I'm going to be sharing with you some recommendations if you happen to love Westworld. So, before I do head into this video, I don't want anyone to be kind of turned off that, recommendations for Westworld fans. I'm not going to have any sort of spoilers, and even if you don't like Westworld, even if you don't watch Westworld, I hope you still stick around for this video, because maybe just the theme, just the theme of this particular video, there may be some things that might interest you in particular. So yeah, you guys, Westworld is coming back this month. Depending on when this video is being uploaded, I'm not quite sure. Westworld is either about to start or it has already started, who knows. So yeah, I decided to do a video kind of celebrating the return of season 3 of Westworld and give some recommendations if you happen to like Westworld. Or if you don't like Westworld or have never gotten into it, maybe these are just recommendations in general if you happen to like things that deal with robots or androids or, some sort of synthetic life form, maybe you'll get some recommendations out of that. So yeah, if you happen to have not seen Westworld, or if you're not familiar with Westworld, Westworld is a show that airs on HBO, has a pretty huge, gigantic cast, and what Westworld is about, it's about a place called Westworld. Self-explanatory. And it's essentially a huge, gigantic theme park. Think of it almost like a cross between Disney World and Jurassic Park. Might be a strange combo, but that's kind of what it is. Disney meets Jurassic Park. And at Westworld, it's a theme park, but it's like very realistic and interactive, and you're just fully immersed in it. It's almost like role-playing, essentially. And you come into Westworld, you get to cosplay. you practically get to cosplay because it takes place in a Western setting, so you can either be a good guy or a bad guy. You get the clothing, you can get a hat, just the whole Western attire and get up. You can really just get right into it. So yeah, you walk into Westworld, like I said, you can either be a good guy or a bad guy, kind of that type of role playing, and you can interact in this world. And like when you go to someplace like Disney, you have cast members, you have live human cast members that are walking around and talking with you, or yeah, if they're in a Mickey Mouse costume or something like that, But at Westworld, instead of kind of having something like that, it's actually robots. It's actually very realistic robots that you are interacting with, and yeah, it's like you don't really know sometimes, is this a human character? Is this a robot character? It's that interactive and that immersive into the experience that sometimes you don't really know. So yeah, what happens in Westworld, without giving too many spoilers away, is that eventually there are some malfunctions with the robots, and the robots are starting to develop like thought and feeling and emotion, and they're not supposed to be feeling any of those types of things, because they're programmed not to, obviously. They're programmed to kind of stick with their schedule, stick with their script, and that's how they roll. So yeah, things are malfunctioning, and that's why I give the Jurassic Park comparison, because it turns into a straight out Jurassic Park situation. In Jurassic Park, the dinosaurs, they're in the cages, but that power outage, they all get loose. And that's kind of the same thing with the robots at Westworld. Once this problem and issue kind of starts happening and the robots start going crazy. So yeah, that's the general thing with Westworld. I love the show. I think it's just really brilliant and clever and very deep and thought-provoking, full of really great, interesting characters, and so yeah, that's where I'm coming from with this list of recommendations. If you happen to like Westworld, you may like this. And it's all things that are related to either robots or androids or, you know, synthetic life of some sort. And yeah, what I love about robot fiction, I guess I'll say, what I like about robot fiction is just the questions it poses. If done well, you know, something involving robots is going to question, you know, what it means to be human, what it means for the future of society, future of humanity, how we treat others. You know, any good robot story is gonna have you questioning just the way of the world and the future of the world. So yeah, I've been rambling enough. Let's get into the top 5. You guys, what are my top 5 recommendations if you happen to like Westworld? At number 5, I have something that kind of comes from the young adult genre. I wanted to include something for younger people that's not so dark and heavy, because the rest of this list is pretty dark and heavy. So yeah, I have at number 5 The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Mayer. And if you don't know what the Lunar Chronicles is about, it's a series of books that are essentially sci-fi retellings of fairy tales, classic fairy tales. Because you have the first book, which is called Cinderella, obviously. Second book, Scarlet, Red Riding Hood. Third book, Cress, Rapunzel. Next book is Winter for Snow White. And I love these books. If you love all things fairy tales and you want to see them mashed up in a sci-fi retelling, this is right up your alley. So yeah, why I recommend this series if you love things with robots or if you love Westworld, the reason I'm recommending this is because the main protagonist in the Lunar Chronicles, her name is Cinderella, you guys, and she is actually a cyborg, meaning she's half human, half robot. She's been in a devastating accident that we're not given too many details about at first, but yeah, she has a bunch of body parts that are robotic, like I think she has like a robotic arm, a robotic leg. I think her eyes are even robotic. Like, there's not too terribly much of her left that is actually human. A good majority of her is robotic. She has a best friend named Aiko, who is like this little boxy android, but at some point she does get human form later in the series. She does get human form. She's like a humanoid android. So yeah, I just think the Lunar Chronicles is so sweet and cute and poses a lot of interesting questions about the future of humanity, where we can go with technology, and it is, like I said, just so clever with the mashup of sci-fi retellings of fairy tales. It is just so cool and awesome and visually stunning to kind of read and imagine in your head. So yeah, that's my number 5 recommendation. At number 4, this should be an obvious one, Battlestar Galactica, you guys. And I'm recommending the newest series, not the one from, what was it, the 70s? I've never seen that older one. But yeah, I love the modern remake that, God, when did that modern remake happen, you guys? Early 2000s, kind of ended late 2000s, somewhere in there. If you don't know what Battlestar Galactica is about, it was originally a sci-fi show and took place in the future, and it was essentially about all these people on this spaceship called the battle. Wait, was it called the Battlestar Galactica or just Galactica? What the hell was that shit called, you guys? I can't remember. Was it just called the Galactica? I'm having trouble remembering now. I should have maybe done some quick research before this, because it's been a long time since I watched Battlestar Galactica, you guys. A very long time. But yeah, it's all these people on this spaceship, and the reason everybody is on this spaceship is because these robots called Cylons have essentially taken over the Earth, and they've all kind of been run out of the Earth, and they've all been up in space in these spaceships. Yeah, the Cylons are these really big, scary machines. They're very smart, very intelligent. You don't want to mess with them. And not only that, the Cylons, they can appear as these big, bulking, monstrous machines, but little do you know, there's actually like humanoid Cylons that look like humans, sound like humans, interact like a human would. They are super realistic. And that's one of the fun things with Battlestar Galactica, you guys, because you get some wild and crazy reveals kind of halfway through the series that some characters that you've been with for a while that you thought were humans, you find out they're all a bunch of Cylons, you guys, and it's jaw-dropping. So Battlestar Galactica, I love the premise of it. Sometimes I'm not really too much into heavy science fiction, because sometimes heavy science fiction can be a turn-off for me. But I love Battlestar Galactica, even though it is a science fiction story. I mean, it was so much more than that. It was about humanity and the future of humanity, and you know, people living up in space with essentially no home, and it's kind of this big thing of trying to reclaim Earth, try to get back to Earth, you know, something like that. Like I said, you guys, it's been a long time since I watched Battlestar Galactica. And yeah, I love the whole idea of the Cylons. And yeah, Battlestar Galactica, you guys, it even had a spin-off called Caprica. And I freaking loved Caprica, and Caprica got canceled after one season, and I loved it. I'm still bitter. I'm still bitter that Caprica got canceled. But yeah, if you love heavy science fiction and yeah, robots, evil killer robots, and yeah, they're sneaking on board spaceships looking like humans. If you love that sort of thing, you're going to love Battlestar Galactica. It just has some of the best cliffhangers and some of the best episodes, some of the best characters. Ah, so good. At number 3, I have Ex Machina. This is a movie that came out quite a number of years ago, starring Alicia Vikander, Oscar Isaacs, and Donald Gleason. And this movie, you guys, wow. Wow, wow, wow. The movie essentially just has 3 main characters. It's like a 2-hour movie, and you're essentially with 3 characters from start to finish, and oh boy, does it tell a very compelling, fast-paced story. It's about Donald Gleason's character, that he gets invited to this reclusive billionaire. Is he a billionaire? He gets invited to this reclusive billionaire's house, played by Oscar Isaacs, and Donald Gleason is there to kind of interact with this robot or android that Oscar Isaacs has created, played by Alicia Vikander, and he's supposed to interact with this android to kind of, you know, test out the robot, like how intelligent is this robot, how smart, because Oscar Isaacs is essentially trying to create a robot that's going to be believable, that it's going to behave like a human, act like a human, interact like a human, and that he can set it loose eventually with no problem, you know? So the movie, oh my god, you guys, the movie is just so good. The interactions with Donald Gleason and Alicia Vikander's character, just some of the most intense scenes. Yeah, Oscar Isaacs just playing a madman, essentially. He's it's like he's God, you know, he's playing a godlike figure with an ego, you know, so full of himself, like, aha, I've created life, essentially. The movie is just so compelling and interesting, and it just poses a lot of deep philosophical questions about humanity, and, you know, what exactly is it that makes us human, you know, the things that make us tick. And yeah, Alicia Vikander's performance, you guys, her performance is just simply outstanding, because even though she's playing someone who's very robotic, it's like you can still read so much feeling and emotion in her. And yeah, seriously, the ending goes to some crazy places. I wish I could talk about the ending, because the ending just gets so wild and crazy. And so good. I want to watch the movie again right now. I believe it's on Netflix. If you've not seen Ex Machina, go to Netflix and watch it, because I think you will be very pleasantly surprised with it. At number 2, I have a graphic novel called Alex and Ada, And this graphic novel, it's not too big of a graphic novel actually. You can pretty much read it in a couple days, I think. It's so good. It's a graphic novel. Takes place sometime in the near future. It follows this young man named Alex. Alex has recently got broken up with his girlfriend. He's pretty lonely, a little depressed, and trying to cheer him up, his grandmother buys him an android. This android is named Ada, and he turns Ada on, and she interacts with him like a human, essentially. At first, Alex is kind of repulsed by Ada because he's really angry with his grandmother because he never wanted a robot, and he doesn't want to be one of those people with a robot. Like, he needs a robot for companionship because he's a loser and whatnot, you know. He doesn't want to come across that way. And he doesn't want to use Ada in that particular manner, not at first anyway. So yeah, at first he doesn't like the idea of Ada and her being around, but eventually he really starts to connect with Ada, and he starts to see more under the surface, you know, that there's more there, that she's not just this thing or this object. And yet he just starts to feel bad, because he starts to feel bad that here's this robot who is here to serve my every whim and need, and if that doesn't seem right and it doesn't seem fair, she should be able to have thought and feeling and be treated like any normal person, you know? So yeah, it's a big old story. Alex and Ada is this pretty big story about Alex and Ada who eventually kind of come together, and it's such a beautiful love story, you guys. It is a love story at some point. A beautiful, just devastatingly heartbreaking love story, just so emotional, so gripping. One of my favorite couples that I've read in a while. So yeah, if you love all things graphic novels, I definitely recommend you pick up Alex and Ada, because I don't think you'll be disappointed. And at number one, you guys, my number one recommendation here, if you like all things Westworld, or if you like things with robots, it is the video game Detroit Become Human. This video game, you guys, is perhaps one of my all-time favorite video games. I freaking love it. It is a very lengthy, complex game as well, you guys. I can't even begin to describe half of it. But yeah, the basics of Detroit Become Human. It's a video game that's essentially like a choose-your-own adventure type of game, that you get options. And a lot of times with choose-your-own adventure video games, a lot of times what's kind of irritating is that sometimes your choices don't really matter. It's like you're given the illusion of your choice mattering, but at the end of the day, your choice sometimes doesn't really matter, except in a few little areas. But I think what works with Detroit Become Human is that I really do genuinely think that your choices matter. Because you can have either a fantastic game experience or a very horrible one. Because there are things that you can do fairly early on in the game that you won't even get to finish the game, because your main characters can die. Your main characters can die, which means that you might not even reach the ending, or yes, some of them, their story like stops halfway through. So it's a very complex game, but your choices, like I said, I think your choices genuinely do matter. And yeah, you're following three primary characters. You're following an android named Connor, who is kind of essentially like a detective. That's kind of his specialty. He's made to work with the police and help with forensics and kind of, you know, unmap a crime scene, essentially. So there's Connor, which is my favorite character, you guys. He is my absolute favorite character. And the second character you're playing is Marcus, and Marcus is essentially like a home android. Did I mention that? I can't remember. Did I mention all three characters? All three playable characters are androids. Let me make that clear. Marcus, he's a home android, and he lives with like a very wealthy man, but so through a chain of events he kind of gets kicked out and he's on his own, and he eventually meets up with other androids and they start a android revolution, essentially, for, you know, free rights and whatnot, and for androids to be treated equally like humans. And then your third character is Kara, and she's also like a home android, and she's taking care of a little girl. But yeah, through a chain of events, her and the little girl have to go on the run, and it's essentially their story of trying to get over to the Canadian border to get to freedom, essentially, where they can live a bit more in harmony and peace and whatnot. So yeah, that's the primary story right there. You're following 3 android characters, their journey from start to finish, and it is, the whole video game is like a big analogy for like the Civil War, for slavery, for the Civil Rights Movement, racism, sexism. I mean, it's tackling, when you dig into the narrative, when you really dig in there, it's a very big allegory and narrative for those types of themes. It's very, very heavy on it. And I just absolutely adore Detroit Become Human. It's so amazing from start to finish. It's one of those video games I just get so highly invested in. So yeah, if you're looking for a good video game, I definitely recommend you go check that out. So you guys, that is it for this month's top 5 recommendations. If you happen to love all things Westworld, or yeah, if you've never seen it, like I said, maybe these are recommendations. If you happen to like things with robots and androids, I hope there's something here that might catch your attention. In the comments below, is there anything I left out? I know I left out like the big ones like Terminator. I do love the Terminator movies. Those are so freaking good, especially the first 2. I love the first 2 Terminator movies. And then I know there's also a BBC show called Humans that I know AMC picked up at some point, but that's been canceled. I know Humans was also about androids, like realistic androids and whatnot, and I never got into that, and I wish I had, because I do love British shows, and it just sounds like such a good show. So yeah, any other things that I've neglected on this list, just let me know your thoughts down below. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.